Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there, and welcome to Wednesday, the first day that I can say with total certainty that the Pirates will not have a losing season this year. Woo! Only have to win one more game to have a winning season. Woo! That brings us to St. Louis, where my sister Susan's going to join us today since she wasn't here yesterday, and Potter ain't here today because Potter's moved to Fridays. Woo! Susan.
Yeah?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. We're happy.
Why did Potter move to Friday?
Oh, it has something to do with actually doing his job as a journalist. Something about...
life getting in the way?
Something about city council meetings happening on, I don't know what, Wednesday morning. I don't know what. But it's something like that, and it would help him perform his function first and foremost of being a scribbler, a ink-stained scribe person. As opposed to the delightful, clever, and intelligent gent we have here once a week. I almost choked on that.
So here, I'll cover for you comfortably from St. Louis, where we sit 2 games back.
Yeah, you guys, thank you very much for beating the Reds. They're making me nervous, too. Well, the two of you, listen, look, we'll be in St. Louis this weekend, right?
Yeah.
Well, so you can have at us then. So... whatever, pretty exciting for us here. You guys been there, done that, so I'm not going to...
right, you know how I feel about this.
Right,
I mean, I certainly, can't help rooting for my own team.
Nope.
If I got to lose to someone, it makes me happy that it's you guys.
Exactly right, and we thank you for it.
That said, I wish you would have gone to more games in Pittsburgh because you seem to help our side.
What, every time? You're just saying that because I was at Sunday's game and we got routed. No, actually, the games I've gone to, we've tended to win this year. That was my first horrible game. Jeez, wow. But, yeah, never mind. Enough. So, Susan, I warned Susan. I said, yeah, you can come on today, but we gotta, I'm sorry, no more fun. This Syria thing is too big to avoid. And there's nothing funny about it. And I spoke of it, by myself yesterday for some time. And what I said, and I don't know where you stand on this. Susan and I have not talked about this at all. I don't know where her head is. But I said my head is still in this position of looking at what is a impossible situation, a no-win situation, a multi-layered situation. This is a very hard call.
It's no time to be glib.
No.
The more I read and the more I think about it, if you ask my preference is that, this would be a great time to use a drone. But, we can't do that. We're prohibited by international law.
And our own law. And our own law from assassinating leaders. Because I said the same thing. Where's a drone when you need one? Let's just take the jerk out.
Yeah, but you can't do that.
No, we can kill a lot of citizens, but we can't kill the perp.
Well, and which then just gets me back to, total anger that we are stuck in this this mindset of tribal warfare wherein the chief gets to send out the braves, and they sit back, and I'm getting tired of that. I really think that it's time for people to rise up and say, if you guys want to fight, go over there and fight. You can fight to the death.
Who can fight to the death?
The leaders.
Oh, put the leaders in it. Well.
Anyway, where am I really about this? Where I am about it is that I do think that we have to do something, and I am not opposed to taking a long look at it. I thought, and I can't remember who it is in the New York Times that said it, but he said, regarding Kennedy in the missile crisis, that taking time to think about it, did not mean he was indecisive. And viewing, thinking about confusing deliberation with decisiveness is dangerous.
The other thing, though, anytime, any statement you make about this, I can come back and play devil's advocate. That's the thing about this kind of a situation.
And I can too.
Right, I know you can. So I want to say I agree with you about the deliberate nature of what we should do, nothing precipitous, blah, blah, blah. On the other hand, it seems so odd to say to a country, we are going...
Wait for it.
Yeah, right. We are going to bomb you. And sometime. And don't worry, we are going to avoid bombing civilian populations. We're just going after your means of this chemical of delivering these chemical weapons and perhaps
and so
any
they're
stashes.
Busily moving all of their...
Exactly right. So then they move them all into...
They can't move their runways.
Yeah, but they can't. They got plenty of time now to be moving everything into civilian populations.
Well, that they can do, but they can't move their runways.
But so why do we lose that? Why do we tell them so much? Is it because we live in this open democracy in which questions can be asked and then our government has to respond? And if we lived in a less democratic place, the administration could keep secrets. I hear people laughing. Could keep constant secrets, total secrets. Wouldn't know us any explanations, and could be maybe more forceful. And you can't. We have to deliberate almost in open like this, giving the pinhead Assad all the information that he could possibly want. That drives me crazy.
He is smirking and laughing over there, but I think that we can still manage to have a few secrets, and we don't really know what they're planning. But we do know that among all the advice that Obama heard was that what they were contemplating would be as effective 3 weeks from now as it was at this moment, which helped him in this decision.
I have to tell you, Barack Obama and John Kerry clamoring for military action makes me a little more comfortable than if George W. Bush and Dick Cheney are.
Absolutely. But you see, for me, this is part of it. I find myself in this surprising position of trusting my government.
Well, most of my audiences are, they're laughing now, Susan.
Well, I know, but I voted for this president twice.
You trust his judgment.
I trust his judgment.
And I trust Kerry's.
I think John Kerry's one hell of a smart guy. I trust his judgment too.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Neither one of them are trigger happy.
Okay,
So if both of them are telling me that we need to respond to this, then I tend to believe them.
Okay.
And then when further we get all but Mitch McConnell, agreeing with this
and
in terms of the leadership of Congress, call me totally stupid because we've seen this once before and they were all duped. But, I think that we have more evidence of what Assad did than we did of, WMD.
Okay. It's funny how as I said, I haven't talked to Susan, but she's...
And we just said the same thing.
Well, we're thinking a lot alike. But you mentioned you trust these two in as much as you're going to trust any president and any secretary of state. I tend to as well. Now, this is what occurred to me.
And Donnie Rumsfeld was on the Today Show saying that he backed Obama.
Oh, well, that's reason then, too.
Yeah, I know. So now what do you think?
Well, screw him. I wanted to talk about Rumsfeld a little bit because what I was realizing last night, because I was watching part of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing yesterday with Kerry and Hagel and some of the big brass taking questions from all of these senators. And it became so clear that the extraordinary damage that was done to this country under Bush Cheney was the elephant in the room at those hearings yesterday. Because what Bush and Cheney did was lie us or mislead us or scare us into a horrifying, horrible, unnecessary war. And
I believe the word is manipulated.
Okay, and you tell me how damaging is that to this nation? Because now in a situation where I think a lot of Americans would say, yeah, let's show this SOB that you cannot do this. But now Americans are so frightened of what any action means, and they're so distrusting of government because they've been taught to mistrust government. They've been taught well. They've been taught well by Richard Nixon. They've been taught well by George W. Bush. And the damage that's done to the country by betraying the trust of the American people is probably the worst kind of damage, because I don't know how you repair that. So the reason that we're being as hard as we are, perhaps questioning every word out of Kerry's mouth, out of Obama's mouth right now, is, and we hear because the Americans are weary of we're weary. We got duped. We got duped. Go ahead, Susan. I'm sorry.
We wasted a lot of lives with lies. So, many of us are very careful about this. But, if there are two morals, or there's one big moral to that story about the boy that called wolf, and that's that you do need to be able to recognize when you do need to act. And although, like you, I can go back and forth. So why is a chemical weapon different than, why are those deaths different than the thousands and thousands? I mean, the 95,000 that came before them.
Right.
You can't, at some point you have to stop that. You have to say, no, we're counting them to, this is the straw, we're going. And I believe them. No boots on the ground. I believe them. Somehow they think they have something that they can do that sends an appropriate message, that wipes the smirk off of, that creep's face. But, not my decision to make. This is the point of our government. This is when we most need to trust our government. And just because I have been misused time and time again, I'm an eternal optimist. I believe in this president, and if he says that we're going to do this, I think that we, with deliberation and hopefully with the permission and support of Congress, that we do it.
I'm leaning that way myself, because, like you, I tend to trust. And I'll tell you, the day that I am incapable of trusting my government at all is the day I just take me out. I can't live like that with no hope, with no sense of, how do you ever, sing the Star Spangled Banner or feel good about the country if you can never, ever trust it to do the right thing? I don't pretend to know what the right thing is.
I have to believe that my government is acting in the best interest of, of not only the people of this country, but the world.
This is one of those cases where, I'm sorry, this is what happens when you're the big dog. This is what happens when the United States of America, the leader of the free world. And the president, when I left the House, was giving a live, he was doing a press conference with, he's in Sweden, and
right.
He was taking questions about this. And he essentially said the same thing. He said, anytime anything happens in the world, the entire world pivots and looks at the United States. What are you going to do is the question. It's always, what is the United States going to do? Because we're the big daddy and we're supposed to do something. And most of the world is very comfortable. Why wouldn't they be being bystanders? Bystanders, as we know, it's like watching a football game. You can scream at the coach. You can say, you're a bunch of idiots. It doesn't matter
you can
that...
switch sides with impunity.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter that you yourself, if put in the position of being the coach on the sideline, would do better, knows more. I don't know. Again, yes, because I voted for this government, my tendency is to support them. Although I have supported actions, military action.
Supported Bush.
I supported Bush in Afghanistan.
Yes.
I did not support him in Iraq.
No.
Right. So,
but when the whole thing started, our response, it's the part that's gone missing from the whole political spectrum for the last, 6 years now, which is that you support your government, whether it's the one you voted for or not.
Well, not always. You're saying that Republicans should think about the fact that all things are not political, and if your government is about to do something difficult, but that is in fact morally correct.
Morally, ethically, and legally correct. And we have to go back to the place where there's a document that all of these countries signed that said that they would not do this. So if they do it...
Well, I don't think Syria signed that.
I think they did.
Okay. Well, I might be in receipt of incorrect information. Frankly, it doesn't matter if they did or didn't, because 98% of the world's governments did, and we did. And
there have to be consequences. Otherwise, what are these pieces of paper?
The president said today in Sweden, he said, somebody said, well, if you hadn't said that about the red line, we wouldn't have to. He said, look, I didn't draw that red line. The nations of the world.
The community drew that red line.
Yeah. And the Congress really drew it. That was a no-brainer when they signed off on that treaty. So do you have these standards, these red lines, and then the whole world says we will not stand for this? And then when a bully, pipsqueaks, SOB like Assad starts slaughtering his own people in this manner that the world has said is a step too far, and we sit on our hands, well, does that not then signal the bully that he can now, with impunity, gas some more of his people.
Right.
And some other tin horn somewhere is looking, hey, look, the people, they say they're going to do something. They ain't going to do anything. Let's, I mean, at what point do these horrible, evil people have to suffer a consequence? The thing that drives you crazy is it's not Assad suffering it. It's going to be other. But his country, I don't know what to say. There will be no people left to kill in Syria in another year. Practically half the country has emptied into Jordan, Turkey, Egypt, Iraq. There's over 1 million of them.
Destabilizing those areas.
All those places are destabilized now. Thomas Friedman calls Syria today in his op-ed piece a wickedly complex problem. And it is.
Well, it is because the characters, all of the waters have been muddied, and then it still boils down to essentially the tribal warfare between one kind of and one sect and another.
And that's why a lot of Americans will say.
A lot of Americans will say, let them kill each other.
That's right.
Just
what the hell, Sarah Palin? There's nothing we can do. This is tribal, blah, 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 blah. But this doesn't have to do with that. That's why we were sitting out Syria in general. What's happened here is the chemicals. And we can argue whether, dead is dead or...
It's just another kind of racism, Though it doesn't matter if those people die. I mean, we've done this in Africa over and over and over. It doesn't matter if those people die. They don't look like us.
I don't relate to them.
I don't relate to them. They're evil anyway. Let them die.
Well, this is, Susan, what I said yesterday in that regard, because I do think that's what's operative here. And this is what, more than anything, is pushing me toward support of Obama. This is, I cannot tell you how many times since I've been a child all the way to now in my dotage have I, in quiet and contemplative moments, wondered with such sorrow and heaviness of heart why a world could sit by and watch as my people, Jews, ran for their lives, and people knew they were being slaughtered, and did nothing. We didn't go to war to save the Jews. Let me be very clear about that. In fact, we didn't care.
We went in spite of that.
Yeah, we went in spite of that. So I understand. And so because I'm a Jew, I think, hey, there's people dying over here. Why don't you do something? And other people think, well, it's Jews. Or in this case, it's Syrians. It's these tribal people. It's Muslims. It's these Arabs. Who gives a damn? It's those Africans. They can't, And now I see exactly how a world stands by.
That's right.
I see it exactly.
It's not about us.
No, so
and
let it be.
We don't like them anyway. Let them.
And do we now feel with history, that history gone, done?
But, not to muddy the waters further.
Yeah.
But for all those people that are so against abortion, how can they look at the pictures of all those hundreds of dead children and not think that this is an atrocity that requires a response?
Okay, that'd be them, yeah. I just, because they're not our children. It's the same kind of thing of when an airliner goes down in some other part of the world. And
then they report that there was one American, so that's all we care about.
Right. This is nuts. And the people who tend to stake out the territory that says, I am a humanitarian, are the pacifists. So a lot of the humanitarians will be absolutely, knee-jerk are opposed to this action because you don't take violent military action in response to violent military action. It all gets us nowhere.
Yeah.
And then, fine and dandy, but
I've never understood that, because that gives you permission to stand by and let evil people do evil things and relieves you of all responsibility to do anything except clean up the mess.
If we don't act when an atrocity is occurring. But here's another question then, Susan. There's atrocities occurring all over the place all the time. Right now, just because Americans, we are so woefully unaware of all kinds of stuff going on in various nations of the world that we pay no attention to.
Absolutely.
Okay, so people will say, oh, well, just because this one is, I don't know, you're worrying about Israel or something, everybody.
This one takes on the color of national security, and that's why they're stepping forward.
I don't know. So, that's Susan and I are of the same kind of mind, which is interesting, even though we had not talked about this before.
No, we don't. It is interesting. I mean, and I'm coming to these conclusions by, unhappily. Because believe me, my natural inclination at this point in my life is to value life and abhor all killing. But that said, how can you allow this? My preferred way of dealing with it is even I can see inappropriate. So we can't do the drone. I'll be very interested to see what will be done. The only thing I can think of is that if they're going to take out, all of the important parts of delivery systems.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd be curious. My audience, Susan. I'm guessing, just because I know them from talking to them, I think the vast majority are going to be opposed to this action. But I haven't heard much from them about it, and I'm hoping it's because
they're probably as confused as everybody else.
Well, I don't know if they're confused, but I hope they're wrestling with it. Anybody who easily has come to a position, I am
isn't thinking.
No, I don't. As I say, wickedly complex is what it is. And again, this unfortunate thing of us being the leader of the world, to a leader, all kinds of burdens fall.
Essentially what we're being asked to do is referee a situation, and such that we're saying we'd prefer it that you guys work out your own civil war, but you got to play by certain rules, and you can't do this, so we're punishing you. Now get on with it. I mean, that is actually the very careful winding road that we're walking.
And I mean, I know we step back a little further, and it's also unbelievably crazy and absurd, it seems. We do have a caller.
Yeah.
Hang on. Hello, caller.
Hey, Lynn and Susan.
Hey.
George from Moon.
George, good. We need another voice in here. Go for it.
That's right. Vietnam veteran.
Okay.
1964. Okay, and I know the detail of how that war started, and I experienced it, and I was not a combat veteran, but I was in photo intelligence and saw how we got into that based on a lie about the Tonkin Gulf.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm aghast that you two are so on board about this, and seem to be taking just the moral outrage position. But let's step through this, because this is a very weighty subject. I would say, Lynn, you should be concerned. You have a 20-year-old son?
21.
21-year-old son, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And Susan and you, Lynn, you guys pay taxes, too. And that is what initiating war is all about, is spending blood and treasury and ruining lives. I say first on our side and on the other side.
Can I just insert one thing here right now, because
sure, it needs to be made personal.
Okay. Here's what I want to say, because in listening to arguments on the other side that keep talking about what you just said, going to war. This is not going to war.
Okay, now let me.
This is an action.
Well, now, okay, that's Okay, Korea was called a police action.
I understand that. I know
Vietnam
my history
was called
too.
a police
I
action,
understand
really.
that. This is a limited. They're going to go in and slap him down
Okay,
to
but
make
you're
a point,
missing-
and they're backing
you're missing
away.
You're missing some serious facts here. First of all, everything changed when Admiral McCain, and I call him that because I think he's frustrated from the past, him and Lindsey Graham went up to the White House, and I think things changed. And they're on board with Obama, and Obama is spelling out the details according to what McCain and Graham want. They want a widened response, and I think a lot of people are missing that, and I think you're missing that.
No, I'm not missing it. I've
Well,
seen
let me
I've seen
detail
the
it then.
word
The
play.
widened response-
I understand it. Okay, go ahead.
The widened response is that McCain wants to supply weapons and
to the
support
rebels.
of all kind to the opposition. He
That's
calls
correct.
it the Free Syrian Army. But any reading of all those groups, and everybody pretty much agrees,
I agree with this. It's out of
all those groups are crazies of all types that represents the spectrum of Syria. I saw an intelligence analyst who was in the CIA for 30 years, and he said the idealistic ones have been knocked off and have been subjugated in those groups. The jihadists and the crazies are in charge. So what you got is crazy small groups that can't get together for 2 years.
I agree.
Opposing a crazy regime.
I agree, and there's no
Now-
way to arm those people. There's no way to arm them.
Right, right.
And
But
you think
the McCain plan is to arm them and supply them with heavier weapons, and this surgical, tailored, appropriate response that Obama was talking about. McCain wants to trash that and turn that into.
I don't give a damn what he wants. He ain't going to get that.
He's going to get it
No, he's
because
not.
Obama's making an agreement with him to punish the Assad regime and to set them back, which means we've taken sides. If you hear,
have you heard the
McCain
president say
board,
that? Have the president said anything like this?
Yes, he did. He absolutely said
Since
that
he
and
met
said
with
we are
McCain.
working out, and he's calling it a second step or a longer strategic plan that will be part of this too. Now, if he doesn't get McCain and Graham and the other Republicans on this, and they've threatened they will not vote for it, it could hurt the Senate's votes on it. But Obama is working with McCain on this to make this a wider war, which means that with that, if that's part of the resolution that is passed by the Senate or the Congress, then this will be an initiation
Do you think? Wait a minute.
war.
Just wait a minute, George. How in the hell is a resolution going to pass the Congress that asks for a wider situation? The only resolution that's going to get through that Congress is a very limited one. Very
I agree with you.
limited.
That remains to be seen. That remains to be seen because both parties are split on this.
Okay,
you
well,
understand that.
Okay, I understand.
Both parties are split.
Listen, if it were very limited, would you support it?
I don't think you can limit
If it was the precise action that I actually think is in the works.
Let me tell you what happens when you initiate that kind of a so-called limited action. Okay, I saw it up close. I saw the photographs. I was part of the Air Force that did this kind of stuff, and I've seen it repeated with the 3 Middle Eastern wars we've had over the last 23 years. And that is that you will send in these missiles that are unmanned, but the United States Air Force and United States Naval air assets will be used with pilots and air crews, refueling and everything like that, including maybe the French Air Force. The British, as you saw, are out of this. Mm-hmm. And that'll pretty much be it. Now, this is not a NATO action, so it could be just us and the French. When you go in there with air crews and everything and you strike targets, even if it's not a McCain action, you will then lose air crews. Absolutely, either by accident or shooting down, and there will be captures and deaths. And when that takes place, our military goes in to rescue them. And then they get in a shooting action with ground forces from the opposition. And then you are into the war. Because our military will not back off, and the president will not back off to save air crews, and neither will the French. Okay, and we will be into a war.
Okay. These are yes. There is some possibility, I suppose, of that. Wait a minute. Why did you backhand the moral reasons for this?
Okay, because I think
like that's some
nobody is talking about the populations of the people who will spill the blood and spend the money. The British people are against this. The American people are against this. The French people have been polled, and they are against it. And you guys have been talking here today. I didn't hear your program yesterday, but you're talking here today, and I haven't heard one word about the will of the people at this point and what they would put up with. The three populations of the three biggest groups are against it.
That's why the president went to the Congress, which is our representative body.
Right. Well,
if he
they
gets
do not
it
represent the people right now. They are a dysfunctional group that does not represent the people.
We don't do
and their
referenda about military action.
Yes.
This is precisely Congress's job, and
Right.
and honestly, in Missouri, I'm reading in the newspaper exactly what you're saying, that
Yes.
that our both our senator and our Congress people will have difficulty persuading their populations that they should vote for this.
If a wide military action takes place,
they either will or won't represent the will of their people, or being in receipt of more information than any of us, will vote what they think is appropriate, which is exactly why we put them there. I'll live with their decision either way.
Well, I hope those
That's what we've been
representatives
doing.
and senators will listen to their constituents, because right now we're not war weary, we're war pissed off. After 3 Middle Eastern wars over the last 23 years, and I'm not a pacifist, and I'm not anti-war. I think there's a formula where you can handle your moral outrage and bring action against countries that carry out stuff. The only way I think it would be morally acceptable and you would win over the population is that this be a joint action by NATO and or the United Nations. I want everybody on board in the neighborhood. And
well, it ain't going to happen. I mean, that can't
well,
happen.
If it doesn't happen, then it should not happen.
Oh, so
this is not,
because
you
Russia,
are not moral if
no.
only one country or two countries get in there to
so
send a message.
Russia has a veto. Russia and China have vetoes, essentially, of UN
well,
action.
Why aren't we sitting down with the evidence? I mean, I thought it was outrageous what's going on in the Senate today. They're having a closed meeting to give detail about the intelligence they have on the gas attack. Now, why can't they bring out more information to the American public that should be convinced and have a closed?
Well, you know the reasons for that always.
Because they want to cover up too much. Then they don't want to take questions about this or that. And I'm not saying I came from the intelligence.
Answer one thing, George. Just answer me one thing. Do you? Susan and I both said we trust John Kerry. We trust Barack Obama. Do you?
No, I'm losing trust in both of them.
Why?
As Vietnam veterans,
what have they done
I see 3 Vietnam veterans, 4 of them sitting there. Okay, I see Chuck Hagel, who was a Marine combat veteran. I see John Kerry, who was a U.S. Navy combat veteran, and I see John McCain as a naval air pilot veteran, and I see them being sucked into this of being forced almost to say that we we can do a clean surgical action.
Okay,
they can't do a clean surgical action, and they do know better. They know better.
All of them, those men that you just mentioned, saw more the horror of war than you did. You agree? And,
yes, they did.
And of
and
the
all
three,
of them are seeing more information than you are.
Yeah, but they aren't revealing it all, and they aren't telling the full public. We've seen that before. We saw that with the Kennedy and the Johnson administration. We've seen that with Democrats that do this, even with experience. I mean, it doesn't excuse you because you are a combat veteran that you were involved in something and now you're for war. Especially it should make you more responsible. American policy has been that we collectively get the interested parties that have a horse in the game in the region to do the work out there.
Okay. Hey, George.
And we were successful in doing that in Libya. The thing was, the Libyan takedown was involved with the French and the British, and we were the backup. And that was successful.
I know, that was great. That was, well,
now,
sort of.
If you can get NATO, at least NATO, as collective European military and political people together to do it, I would say then do it.
Okay, fine.
But don't do it as a single country, and all these peoples in the West are against it. You're asking for an anti-war movement that is going to be against a war that is going to be something to behold. And you all of us, have skin in the game.
All right. Hey.
Okay.
Got to go to
Good talking.
Good talking to you, too.
Right,
Thank
bye.
you. Appreciate it. We are so far behind. Got to get a break in quick.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Week's Pittsburgh City paper is available now. Pick one up today for a look at plans to turn a former housing project into an urban farm. Plus, Kid Rock, Michael Franti, Darius Rucker, and a fair in the park. Pittsburgh City paper, available at 1,700 locations throughout western Pennsylvania. On the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone with GPS-enabled listings at citypapermobile.com.
Come to Little's for all of your back-to-school needs. Little's has everything for all ages to stay in style for this upcoming school season. Check out the large selection from Doc Marten, Steve Madden, UGG, Clarks, Lely Kelly, New Balance, and much, much more. Don't forget to come visit this season's colorful handbag selection as well. Little Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store, 5850 Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Well, I really appreciated that conversation with George. I mean, this is I don't know, Suze. I have to I don't know. I don't know that I still am where I was, but as I said, it's just
if we're accepting his premise that this inevitably leads to boots
a war
on the ground and blah, 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 blah.
I'm
well,
against
no,
it.
I don't want to do that either.
No,
yes,
me
we're
either.
tired. But that's specifically not what's being talked about.
Although you acknowledge...
And we are discussing what is being talked about.
Yeah, but you
I
would
truly don't believe that... we have a representative form of government. This is what Congress is for, to represent us, or in view of the light that they have more information than the average Joe does, because that's how government works, we put in people there that we trust to make these decisions on our behalf. Now, the fact that they've been acting like a laughingstock up till now is one thing, but, at least I vote for people that I think are smart. I trust Claire McCaskill. And I'm hopeful that she will do what she believes is on all of these different murky levels the right vote.
You really think, Susan, that politics, that all these guys won't be making political calculations?
Oh, no, I think about two-thirds of them are going to be making
well, but if
political
that's true, then they aren't going to support the action, generally speaking, because, as George said, most Americans don't want to do it. They're sick of anything having to do with sending any American anything over to the Middle East. Just let it go.
Yeah, well, can I just say I find that highly amusing, seeing that 99% of this population has sent absolutely nobody over there, and a very small number of us have paid the consequences for everybody else. And if those of us that have paid the consequences are willing to take a good look at this, I suggest that all those other creeps that have been sitting on their poop asses doing nothing, think about that. Sacrifices my eye. This is an all-volunteer army, and all those people out there grumping about their great sacrifices have sacrificed nothing.
They've sacrificed their tax dollars.
They've sacrificed their tax dollars.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, let's talk about lives and our moral and ethical responsibility to the world. To our world, not the United States being the world's policeman, every individual's right and obligation to create a better place on this world. It is all of our responsibilities.
I happened to tune in MSNBC last night. Oh, my God. They're going nuts against this. So, yeah, Suze, we are definitely not pleasing most of our audience.
No,
because
you know, we're that vanishing breed of moderates. You can't knee-jerk every single decision. You actually have to think about them. You have to critically think. We are not a cookie-cutter world. You can't just come to one conclusion and stick to it.
Syria is not Iraq. Iraq's not Afghanistan. Egypt's not Jordan. I don't know. You're right. Here again, Tom Friedman. He references that more than 400 of these victims of the gas were children. He says, if there is no global response to this breaching of a universal taboo on using poison gas, the world will be a much more dangerous place. See, I tend to agree with that. If someone doesn't slam the people who go...
He's making his whole country into a gas chamber.
He will. He's capable.
Anybody uncomfortable about that?
Not enough. Only America, he says, can spearhead a credible response. Russia and China have rendered the UN meaningless. That's true. If you call for the UN to be behind this, then you're calling for no action. You're calling because you know that Russia and China...
Right, you're doing it because you know the answer.
Europe, it doesn't have the stomach for anything anymore. The Arab League is worthless, according to Friedman. And everybody else is a spectator. We are out front, the United States, alone. We may not want to be, but here we are. So we must lead. Now,
well,
I must say that Friedman...
in there with us.
Huh? Well,
France
screw them. What difference is it?
Us.
Who cares? I mean, the French? I don't even care at this point. If American force is used in this way, I can feel proud of that. When American force is used like in Iraq, I hang my head in shame. I have blood on my hands. But to use our might to kick a bully in the teeth and say, do that again and we're coming back, is a use of our power that I can support. Why do we always have to assume that the worst? We assume the worst because of all the damage that's been done to this country by other presidents.
We have to, if this country means anything, we have to live by a set of moral mandates, or we're nothing.
Well, we're not who we pretend to be, I guess. Well, Suze.
Yes.
Since no one else other than George is bothering to argue with us, let's change the subject.
Okay.
Do you mind?
I saw 2 good movies. No, I saw 1 good movie and 1 not so good movie.
Okay. Which good movie did you see?
In a World.
Never heard of it.
Okay, it's a small independent movie written, directed, and starred in by a young woman named Lake Bell.
Oh, yes. I have heard of it the one in New York. Right? Right?
No, it's about people that do voiceovers, the trailers. That do
then I don't
the trailer voice in No World. You know that guy.
Uh-huh.
So, but it's a thoroughly enjoyable, funny little, well written, well acted movie.
those are where the good ones are now, the little independents.
Right,
That's
and
who's
totally
doing it.
independent, and this one is written, directed, and starred in by a woman, and she does it extraordinarily well, I must say. So there's that, and then I saw The Butler. Oy.
You didn't like that at all?
Well, it's just it's a crummy script. What can I say? If it's a great movie to show in 6th grade.
To try to teach some history?
To try and teach a little, to condense all of a certain history into two easily digestible hours. Other than that, it's a manipulative, really poorly written movie.
I have not seen it because I've had the...
Well, save it for Netflix. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Go ahead. I mean, you can watch it because you should watch it. But I sure wouldn't go to a movie to the theater to watch it. Ooh.
Okay. Well, I'm not surprised to hear that assessment, but whatever.
Okay, so that's
okay.
Now, what were you going to talk about?
I was going to. Well, it wasn't. I actually have to get PJ's got a note on Syria that I should get in before we totally leave it. One of so many things to say, but I'll ask you this one question: since when don't we target foreign leaders? In the past 40 years, we targeted the Gaddafi family numerous times. As far as saying how could a bigger action resolution pass, I remember a little over a decade ago when whole bunches of people, including John Kerry, voted for an invasion that anyone with a brain could see was based on BS. You're talking about Iraq. But that was... Yeah. Well, okay. But how could that happen? Never say never. They all have been compromised, even the so-called smart ones you like. I cannot go there. I cannot go there. So the minute you guys think that the minute somebody, a well-intentioned, good public servant person with an ego who runs for, way up at the top of national politics, are you saying that they cannot... that they get up...
That they become fundamentally disqualified.
They become fundamentally dishonest, or you cannot ever trust them? What nonsense. I mean, as much as you can trust anybody, we're all betrayed in little ways by people in our own little orbit all the time, even friends maybe. People, we're complicated human beings, and the kinds of structures we have created are complicated, and they're run by complicated human beings who have all the psychological. Everything is, of course, it's fallible. Nothing is a certainty. What the hell? I mean, if you take this kind of reasoning to its end point, first of all, you would never vote for anybody. Why bother?
You'd never vote for anybody. You'd never have a relationship. You'd never fall in love. You'd hate your own children. You would be fundamentally always alone because you could trust no one.
Well, I wasn't doing it on a personal level. I was going to do it just on even the geopolitical level or It's an ugly game.
I think it's
there are leaps of faith that have to happen. There are hard questions with unsatisfying answers. Is anybody
that's the world. It isn't all right. It isn't all wrong. The issue in Syria, is absolutely in many cases a pox on both their houses. That said, wholesale slaughter, with chemical weapons is apparently among international, people a no-no. We all agreed to that.
Nobody
now,
asked me.
what are we going to do about it?
All right. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because I took that other one so late. We've only got 10 minutes left in the show. I got to take a second break, but we'll be right back.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
birdbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. This week, 60% off vouchers to Eclipse Lounge in Lawrenceville. birdbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. birdbargains.com.
Les Ludwig, your independent, self-financed, clean candidate for mayor of Pittsburgh. You've heard the saying, same old. If we don't change what we're doing, we can only expect the same results. Let's look at what the Democratic Party leadership of your lifetime is asking you to do on Election Day. They want you to forget that they and Ravenstall have not lived up to minority contracts and the jobs involved in it. If government promises work and jobs and wants to leave it for the next candidate, will it ever get done? How can we trust Peduto and especially the leadership when they continue to act this way? Are they hiding something worse than Harper's misdeeds? Vote November 5th and remember, same old. Embrace change and work willingly with it. Think outside the party's box. Make Les Ludwig your mayor and join his march to clean government and keeping promises.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck for Dave 2037 so he can buy anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman. What are you getting Steve 2037?
Steve 2037 will be just fine.
Well, okay, but don't expect to borrow my anti-gravity boots.
Save something for the future. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
All righty, we're back. And Susan, here's the other issue I wanted to bring up. I was having dinner, I guess, on Labor Day with friends who have been together, good God, like 30 years. They are gay. They are not married. I said to them, you know, with this IRS ruling that says the feds don't care where you got married, but if you got married in a state that allows it and then you went back home to a state that doesn't, as far as the feds are concerned, you're married. And it would seem to me that gay couples living in, for instance, Pennsylvania, should look at their finances and their own, situations and figure out whether or not now that makes a great deal of sense where they thought it didn't. They thought it was a meaningless gesture to go to Massachusetts or New York or Connecticut or anywhere and get married and then return to Pennsylvania where it didn't mean anything. Well, it does mean something. And that's for purposes of federal taxes and federal benefits. Don't you think if you were in a long-term...
I would think that would also include the estate tax law, which is extremely important.
Right. So if you were in, these are not
in
young
a committed
women.
Relationship, would I want to protect my spouse?
Wouldn't
Absolutely.
you run? I told him you guys should get going and get married now. Now. You'll be married according to the United States of America, even if you're not married in the eyes of the, backward Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Yeah, right. But so don't you think that...
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I gave him good advice because I think if you know gays in relationships that are strong and although sometimes a married couple, there's that marriage penalty thing. It might mean you pay more in taxes. I don't know. But for certain benefits...
the benefits to me outweigh. It would seem to me that if the IRS, if the federal government has extended these things and you are married, then you also have survivorship benefits with Social Security.
That's right. There you go.
These are extraordinarily important things. That if you love the person you're with and you want to try and give them as much security as you are allowed to give them, I don't know why you would choose not to.
Well, right before, what made me think of this is right before we went back on the air, one of the employees here walked by who with her, fiance at the time went to, I think, didn't Lauren go to New York? Went to New York and got married last year or earlier this year. And as she walked by, I thought, oh boy. You're halfway there now because the federal government is with you and your wife. And generally speaking, the Internal Revenue Service has said that they have a standard of what constitutes your place of residence. And they've used that for determining eligibility for spousal benefits. But since the Supreme Court knocked down DOMA, they've really essentially adopted a different standard based on the place where the marriage was performed.
Because otherwise is to engage purposefully in discrimination.
Okay. That's right.
I think it's very interesting. I know in Missouri we have people that are, just hopping over the border to Ohio and getting married, and I'm sure that they're doing that,
Ohio?
for a number of reasons. But
Ohio has gay marriage? No.
That they want to be married and that they
No, wait. When did Ohio okay gay marriage?
I think they did.
Iowa.
Iowa.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm thinking, because it's Keokuk they're going to, so it's Iowa.
It's Iowa. Yeah, right. Iowa. Okay. So, and also I read here that just late last week, the Department of Health and Human Services said Medicare would extend nursing home benefits to same-sex spouses. So if you're a gay couple and you live in this backward state, there's so many of them, the whole Northeast it's now, okay? Get married. And secure your, financial future. I don't care if you think marriage is a bunch of crap, but when it comes to exactly like survivor benefits and estate tax laws and all that kind of stuff, do the math. I don't know what your finances are, but probably this is beneficial to you to be married. And Susan, speaking of Ohio, I don't know if you saw this. A gay man died last week in Ohio. He had been in a committed relationship for 18 years with his husband, and they have 3 adopted children. They were married in Delaware just in July, and now he's gone. He died a week ago. And his husband wanted on his death certificate that he should be listed as married. The Ohio Yahoo said, we have a gay marriage ban in Ohio. We can't have him as married. Well, took it right away to a federal judge, and the federal judge said, sorry, that's ridiculous. You list on his death certificate that he is, in fact, married. He was married. So over and over and over, you see the feds trumping this provincial crap. This is something that's just spinning so fast that those of you who are still standing adamantly against equality for gays
need to go stand in the corner.
Yeah, well, you just need to get out of the way.
Of course, okay. Or you can move to Missouri, where we are about to see the legislature overrule the veto
I saw this.
of our governor, who vetoed a law that said that anybody that was trying to enforce federal gun laws
could be arrested.
In Missouri was guilty of a felony.
That's right. So if somebody tried to if a law enforcement officer tried to enforce federal gun regulations or laws, he could be arrested by the state.
Right. If a police officer stops, busts a drug kingpin and finds a machine gun in the back of that guy's car and tries to charge him with felony possession of a weapon, that police officer can be arrested in Missouri, and that drug dealer can sue the police officer.
I love it.
That's what this law provides.
I know. Well, you got a great state there, Suze. And we're going to have to wrap this up. We'll wrap it up with Chuck, who has emailed, I usually listen to your show twice a day because I don't always hear everything the first time. But I'm not sure I can listen to George and you argue a second time today. It sort of reminded me of the old days when you would talk with Jerry Boyer. I don't know, is that positive or negative? I don't know. You mean, I wouldn't listen to that a second time either, but I thought it was a great conversation because it brought up
Because it's the other point.
It's all these arguments. You think, I mean, this is what people should be wrestling with.
This isn't easy.
No,
and
God
it
knows.
shouldn't be easy.
Well, Suze, thank you for wrestling with it with us, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you, too.
Thank you. It is the Jewish New Year, starts tonight, and Happy New Year to all my Jewish listeners.
And Happy New Year to all of you infidels that don't know that it's the New Year.
Yeah, it's the New Year. I'm telling you. And because of that...
How's it feel?
Because of that, I will be in the synagogue tomorrow. I will not be here because we don't do the revelry part like in the secular New Year in January. We do a soul-searching kind of entrance into the New Year, which I find very very helpful, actually.
We are entering the days of awe, folks.
Yeah, where, you have to take stock. And, of course, every time you take stock, you come up short. Don't you? Or is that just me?
No, of course you do. You're meant to.
Yeah. So you try a little bit better. And I just want to say one other thing. Go Bucks! Okay. Suze.
Bye.
Bye. See you Friday. Potter, Friday.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.